So today I'm really excited. I want to talk to you about the costs of adoption, international adoption, domestic adoption, foster care. We'll touch a little bit on embryo adoption. That's something that if you're interested in, we would love to dive into deeper in a future video. So let us know if you're interested in embryo adoption. So Jared and I went down the roads of international adoption, domestic adoption, and foster care, and we wanted to give you a sort of an idea of how much each of them might cost you, so that if you're interested in adoption or if you're interested in how much adoption costs, you kind of have an idea of how much you are looking at spending for each of those. And we also want to share with you a few ways to help you offset those costs. So let's dive in. Keep in mind, as we're going through this, these costs don't include normal parenting costs like car seats and furniture, clothes and diapers. Also, these costs that we're going to talk about are our experiences. All agencies are a little bit different in their costs and how they do their fees and what you're responsible for versus what they're responsible for. So as you are looking at adoption agencies or adoption options, just keep in mind that they're all going to be a little bit different. So let's start with international adoption. When Jared and I first decided that we wanted to adopt, international adoption was our first choice. With international adoption, you pick an agency, and then you have to pick a country, and then they give you the paperwork packet, because every country is a little bit different on what they're requiring. So your paperwork might look a little different, your fees will look a little different, and what is required of you definitely looks different depending on the country that you choose. So once you've chosen a country and you've fulfilled the requirements set forth by that country, then you get matched. Most of the time, these children are not going to be infants. It does happen, but they're mostly toddler age and up. Most of the time, you're going to be required to visit that country, and some countries even require you to visit them more than once and stay in the country for a certain period of time while you're there. So those are just things to keep in mind when you're talking about international. It is a steep time commitment, but definitely a super cool experience. We did not make it past the pick the country phase on international adoption. We just felt like we hit roadblocks and that was not the way that God wanted us to go. Jared and I partnered with Dylan International. It is beneficial to go with an agency when you're looking at international adoption, because the countries that are open for adoption by America change all the time. So an adoption agency is definitely the way to go. So with Dylan International, we're not really sure what their fee schedule looked like. We know that their overarching fees, like when all is said and done fees, do include travel fees, legal fees, and the paperwork type fees. So you're looking at $25,000 to $45,000, just depending on the country that you've chosen, how many times you have to visit that country, how long you have to stay, and that sort of thing. So really, that's a really wide range. I wish I could narrow it down for you more, but that one is definitely just depends on what you pick. So also keep in mind when you're looking at international adoption, you will have a little bit of a wait. Most of the time, the wait times quoted are 12 months to all the way up to maybe 4 years. There again, just depending on the country you choose. So let's talk about domestic adoption. Our experience is with a domestic adoption agency. There are people out there who have been able to adopt privately, and that's awesome. Our experience is with an actual agency. We used Bethany Christian Services. We partnered with them for about 3 years. So with a domestic adoption agency, the biological parents usually pick the adoptive parents. You're usually going to get an infant. It's very rare to see anything above a toddler age. It is technically legal risk because the parents do not sign their rights away until after the child is born, usually 24 to 72 hours. That will depend on your state. So you want to check into that. As far as fees go, Bethany charged a application fee. The application fee was $550. So they charged a service fee, a domestic service fee, which was $1,500. And then the home study fee was like $3,500. And then the rest of their fees, they split in half to make it a little easier for you to pay as you go. The first of their program fees was $11,200. We actually didn't make it any farther than that because when we were matched with a baby, the mom changed her mind shortly after he was born. So that's as far as we went. The next program fee is $14,800, and then they have a post-placement fee because they do follow up with you after the placement is done. That fee is $1,950. These costs are not going to include your legal fees. Our lawyer retainer fee was $3,250. They also don't include your travel fee. So like your hotel and that sort of thing when you have to stay. We were supposed to have to stay in the county where the baby was born for so many days before courts. And then they also, of course, don't include normal baby stuff like car seats and insurance. So we were looking at spending with Bethany a total of $30,000 to $35,000. So in all with Bethany, because our adoption fell through and we chose not to continue forward with Bethany, we spent a total of $10,593, and that is money that we did not get back. So during our 3 years with Bethany Christian Services, we actually went ahead and were licensed to foster care. And so when our adoption fell through with Bethany, we decided to put all of our efforts into foster care. So let's talk about foster care. So with foster care, almost all of your expenses are paid for by the state, which is amazing. You will have a few small things that you will need to take care of. For our family, because we chose a sibling group of 5, we did have to get a bigger car, a bigger kitchen table, another set of bunk beds, that sort of thing. But the state pays for all of your legal fees. They pay for all of your training. The kids' insurance is paid for until they're 18. In our state, other states may be a little different. They pay for child care. So with our younger kids, we were able to qualify for WIC. While they were foster kids, they got free lunches at school. They just cover so much. So with foster care, when you adopt out of foster care, that adoption is paid for as well. Okay, so the last type of adoption is embryo adoption. We know very little about embryo adoption. If embryo adoption is something that you are interested in, my brother and his wife actually did embryo adoption. So if you're interested, let us know, and maybe they would let us interview them sometime. I don't know. There are lots of different ways that you can raise funds for your adoption. Grants. Grants are a big deal. Don't be afraid to apply for them. Do not think that you won't get picked. We felt that way, but we did it, and we were able to receive several different grants from really large organizations. With grants, keep in mind that there are different grants for different types of adoption, so be sure that you read the instructions and that you meet the qualifications so you're not wasting your time. But I promise you, it's totally worth the extra time and paperwork. We actually received several grants. We received a matching grant from Lifesong for Orphans in the amount of $3,000. We received $5,000 from Show Hope, and we received another $500 from Families Outreach. And Jared's employer actually also provided adoption assistance, and we got $2,000 from them. In addition to those, we got donations from friends and family. Don't be afraid to ask your friends and family for donations. They want to help you. They want to see your adoption work out. We actually set up a blog. At the time, it was Google Blogger, which I would not recommend anymore. But we set up a website so that we could keep our friends and family updated on our progress. But we also put a page on there where they could donate through either our adoption agency, Bethany, or they could use PayPal and send money directly to us for our adoption. Some other ways that we have seen people raise funds for their adoption are like fundraisers, like selling t-shirts or stickers, a garage sale. There are military reimbursements. There is the adoption tax credit. Check into that. That actually is a deduction. When your adoption is finalized, you get a deduction from the taxes that you owe. There are lots of loans and payment plans out there. Most adoption agencies do offer payment plans. And we actually use some of our savings. We had been saving for a long time for this. So there's lots of different ways that you can fund your adoption. Those are, in our experiences, the costs of adoption. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to us and we will do our best to answer your questions. Thank you so much for watching. We look forward to seeing you next week. Please make sure you have subscribed. And if you know anybody who's interested in adoption, share us with your friends. We'll see you next week.